Anyone who's been watching my show for, well, more than an episode, knows I like to critique characters a lot. But let's face it, I haven't really defined what I think is a good character very well yet. Well, it's about crap damn time I did that. So, up next are my top 5 favorite male and female anime characters. This video is honestly going to be pretty simple. I'm just going to list off 5 characters that I really like that are male and 5 characters that I really like that are female. I'll tell you why I like them, and I'll provide them with a really nice MS Paint drawing. Now, that being said, this is entirely my personal taste. These are my favorite characters. This is not some rating for who are the best characters, because honestly, me trying to argue that on my own would be completely pointless. So, without further ado, let's get started with my top 5 favorite male anime characters. At number 5, we have Kenshin Himura from Rurouni Kenshin. So I want to start by saying Kenshin is my all-time favorite manga. The action is great, there's some fun historical tidbits for all you history buffs. These people were not nice. But most of all, it's a shonen series where the lead character is definitely the best one. Kenshin, formerly the assassin Hitokiri Batosai, has a lot of baggage, but he doesn't let that weigh him down. He's not overwhelmed by bouts of emo-ness. Well, usually anyway. He tends to be optimistic, and at the end of the day, he always overcomes the demons that haunt him. While I don't especially like the Kenshin TV series, both of the Samurai X OVAs add a lot to the character. The first one, Reminiscence, shows us just how dark Kenshin's past really was, while the epilogue one, Reflection, gives us an idea of how strong a linchpin Kenshin was in holding the group together, and makes his passing so much more powerful. Kenshin was my hero growing up, probably because he's such a multifaceted character. There's also something to be said about a shonen manga character who doesn't suffer of constant power escalation. As in, once Kenshin learns his ultimate technique, that's it. There's no search for the next technique after that. There's something to be said about that in a genre that so often has attacks that are special in one chapter and about 2 books later aren't effective at all. This heroic swordsman is still one of my heroes, even if he never surpassed his master, who was played by Shuichi Ikeda, which leads us on to our number 4, Chara's novel from Mobile Suit Gundam, also played by Shuichi Ikeda. Casval Daikun, Edward Moss, the Red Comet, Quattro Vagina. Whatever you might call him, Char is the original masked antagonist of Gundam. And what a legacy this character has left. He's been the enemy, he's been an ally, he's been the humble hero fighting for the little guy, and he's been the militant dictator leading a fascist regime. Char is anything but a simple villain, and he is anything but a regular hero. He is an anti-hero of the best sort. No matter what mantle he takes though, Char is always the ace pilot and someone to be reckoned with. He's one of the few pilots who Bright Noah respects, who he's never slapped for that matter. I think the thing that works best about Char is his character arc. We get 3 series to explore him, and each one gives us a new facet to his character. In the original Mobile Suit Gundam, Char is unquestionably the antagonist, but he's never unsympathetic. It makes us cheer for him more in Zeta Gundam, when he is both the main pilot Camille's mentor, and also a politician fighting for social justice, which in turn leads to Char's counterattack and makes his fall from grace into a dictatorial position all the more tragic. While Char is certainly a cool character, he is not without his flaws, which make him a more believable person in a way. While he's definitely a successful pilot and a brilliantly charismatic politician, he fails on personal levels, often not being able to relate with other people, and especially failing in his relationships with women. I could pretty easily make an entire video about Char, but for now I think it's safe to say that he is a legendary character who is often imitated, but never bested. On the subject of anti-heroes, we move on to number 3, Lelouch v Britannia from Code Geass. To call this character fascinating seems like a huge understatement. Lelouch is Well, scary for starters. When given the godlike power of Geass, Lelouch puts it to use immediately to work toward his goal of avenging his sister's eyesight and ability to walk and his fallen mother. But he still manages to work toward another, possibly greater goal in the freedom of the Japanese people. In a way, Lelouch has some classic superhero traits, and not just because he's stealing fashion tips from Batman. As Lelouch Lamperouge, the mild-mannered student, he can be compassionate about his friends, but seem completely uninterested in the world around him or politics in general. Whereas under the guise of Zero, he becomes the cold and calculating revolutionary, someone who will step up and assertively destroy anything that he considers to be unjust. This dichotomy becomes all the more interesting when Lelouch takes off the mask and assumes the title of Emperor. The question of which personality is going to come through more is something that constantly bugs us throughout the last part of the series. Also, despite the fact that Lelouch is a genius, unlike some anime characters out there, it doesn't mean that he can't make mistakes. Indeed, sometimes everything would have gone according to plan, but it doesn't, not because someone outsmarted him, but because Lelouch is dealing with regular people and they don't act the way that he predicted that they would. Furthermore, whether his plans are a success or not, there's always ramifications to what Lelouch is doing, and he has to deal with the consequences of what happens. Sometimes this weighs very heavily upon him and it comes close to breaking him, but he deals with the situations pretty naturally, the way you'd think a 17-year-old would if he was trying to take over the world. Lelouch is a fascinating character partly because he makes us ask one of the hardest questions by putting us in a tough spot. Do the ends really justify the means? Moving on to number 2, we have Captain Harlock from the Leiji Matsumoto universe. Harlock is one of the most heroic badasses that history has ever known. If Clint Eastwood were a skinny space pirate, he would probably be Captain Harlock. Harlock is a character who could only have been created from a post-World War II Japanese mindset. He is a man without a country and without a home, but he's definitely not a man without honor. If there is a wrong to be made right in the galaxy, Harlock and his crew are up for it. But his crew are not loyal to him because he's authoritarian. He's actually quite humanist about it, telling them that they should only do things if they feel like it's the right thing to do, making his crew completely voluntary. But you can't really blame his crew for following him. Everything Harlock does is completely larger than life, and yet he's still a very sympathetic character. I guess that's what makes him work so well. And when I say sympathetic, I don't mean that he's soft. I just mean that you can always understand his motivations. And let me tell you, once he is motivated to do something, he will do it, come hell or high water. And if you swear that you're going to do something, you better damn well do it, or he is pissed. In terms of anime characters, Harlock is definitely the badass to end all badasses. And his many anime appearances are all pretty fantastic. Though, I would honestly recommend checking out the movie Arcadia of My Youth and definitely watching the original 1970s Harlock show. Both are absolutely fantastic, although copies of Arcadia are really hard to find these days. After that myriad of anti-heroes, my pick for number 1 may come as a surprise to some of you. But it is Edward Elric from Full Metal Alchemist. To say that I'm a bit of a Full Metal Alchemist fanboy might be an understatement. When I was first watching Full Metal Alchemist, I could relate to Ed a lot more easily because I was younger, and I had had a really rough childhood growing up. What I admire about this character is that to say that he has a rough childhood doesn't even begin to do him justice, and he still manages to pull through and overcome in the end. The commitment Ed shows to his goals, and especially the relationship he shares with his brother, are just heartwarming and moving. I really sympathize with this character for every step of his journey. And, well, I could talk about Brotherhood. I'm saving that for a future video with Ryan over at Bonus Time. But what I can say right now is that I think that this character works amazingly well. They play up the different parts of him, and his age comes into effect in a lot of ways. Ed's being a teenager makes him impulsive and arrogant, but that also makes him stumble into things and leads him to find what some of his character's shortcomings are so that he can overcome them later. And I give a lot of credit to the writers for thinking about things like that. At the risk of sounding a little schmaltzy, while he's known as the Full Metal Alchemist, I think it's the human parts of Ed that make him a really powerful and well-written character. I hope you enjoyed hearing about what kind of guy characters I really think work. Next up will be my top 5 favorite girl characters. So until next time, keep on spocking in the free world.